All right, it's 6 o'clock, and I call this meeting to order. Kim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's work session will focus on utility billing, primarily current policies and procedures surrounding utility billing. Over the past year, staff has looked at our current code, policies, and procedures compared to our sister cities and other household utility operations. Our goal was to bring forward ideas for the City Council to consider policy changes that would allow for more flexibility and cold weather considerations for our residential customers. We are still bound by Missouri state statutes in many ways, but we do believe we can implement a few changes to benefit our residential utility customers. So we are going to present a couple of ideas. Again, what we are looking for in a work session is just some dialogue and some direction to bring forward formal adoption. Several of the things that we're going to talk about would actually require changes to the city's code. It wouldn't be something that we could just administratively do. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Nick Hawkins.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm going to pull up a brief PowerPoint presentation that will help guide the dialogue for tonight, and then I'll jump right in. Okay. I'm trying to get the presentation up. All right, so can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Nick, it's showing in presentation mode. You might just want to toggle back to the way it was.
Okay. Okay. All right. So as Kim mentioned, tonight is a discussion on utility billing. So we have looked at our own practices, engaged with some of our close by cities as well as across the state of Missouri to see what potential improvements we can be making to our utility billing process. Tonight's discussion is going to focus primarily on the residential side. We'll be happy to discuss any business or commercial account questions if those come up. But the majority of the presentation tonight and dialogue is going to be around the residential. So I want to start brief agenda. So first I want to go over our current policies and procedures. And then that will open up the dialogue for some potential billing options and adjustments we have to our utility billing process. And then leave time for discussion, questions, any dialogue you'd like. So first looking at our current policies and procedures. So the city bills on the last business day of the month, and bills are due 20 days after we do the billing, and that is per code. The shutoff process occurs within 5 days of billing, depending on the day of the week. We do not do shutoffs on Thursdays or Fridays so that we give residents enough time to pay their shutoff fee and get water reconnected and not be out of service over the weekend. After 20 days, there's a 10% late penalty that is assessed. And then when we do the shutoff and reconnect, there's a $15 fee for each of those. So a total of $30 whenever we need to shut off a residential account. All of these penalties and reconnect fees are codified, so any changes would need to include a change to the code as well. Going back to the shutoff process, right now, our current threshold for shutoff, if there's a bill that's under account balance that's under $10, or if the account holder only owes the penalty, so say they pay their regular bill but don't pay the penalty fee, we do not shut off in that case. But anything over that, we do commence with the shut-off process. Jumping to the payment options, the city has several different payment options. The primary one that we engage with is we have an automatic bill payer, ACH. We get a file from residents, send that to the bank, and then those are usually paid within about a day or two before the bills are due, or before the bills are due. We also have our city lobby and Dropbox locations. We offer online payment for a fee. And we also have IVR, our voice recognition, so you can call a number and pay via voice recognition. Some of the updates and upgrades that we have in progress. So in December of 2020, we updated our meter tracking software, and we are in the process right now of updating all of our meter readers. We are aware that there are some delays with bills being delivered via the post office, and we get calls every month from residents saying that they didn't get their bill or they got it after the penalty was due. Anytime we get those calls, we offer the option for account holders to have their emails billed to them so that it's not going through they don't have to wait for the mail to come. And then we also offer that ACH option or automatic bill pay option as well, so that they don't have to worry about getting close to the penalty or shutoff phase. So that is a brief look at our current policies and procedures, and that's going to be the guide for some of the billing options that we want to potentially look at. So as Kim mentioned at the beginning, we've had several internal discussions on potential changes to a number of fees and procedures, as well as reached out to other Missouri municipalities, and like to discuss what we have seen and get your feedback on potential changes. So starting with penalties, the 10% penalty, what we've noticed from the cities that we've talked to, that's fairly standard. Some of the, I believe it's Spire, which does the gas, as well as Kansas City, Missouri, their fee percentage is a little bit lower. We've also talked to some cities that have a flat $10 or $15 late penalty, but the vast majority that we've talked to are in line with the 10% fee that we charge. As far as cutoff penalties, again, our fee is $30. If you combine the shutoff and reconnect fee, that is on the lower end of what we've seen from other cities. So the average that I've seen, or the range that I've seen, has been anywhere between $25 to $50. And I believe the lowest I've seen has been between $15 and $20. So us being at that $30 range, we're on the lower end, but again, we are open to discussion on if we want to make any adjustments there. One of the things that we would like to get your feedback on is the threshold for shutoffs. So like us, some municipalities don't have a threshold, or it's a very low one, while others range in the $50 to $75, or they may wait at least one billing cycle before they commence with going through the shutoff process. If this is something you would like to pursue, we would engage with the person the company that does our billing for us, and that is Encode. We would engage with them on implementing a threshold, but the typical one we've seen has been about $50 to $75. And just looking at some statistics from our accounts, we have right now we have 170 accounts that have a balance over $75. And each month we have between 25 and 30 residential accounts that are on the shutoff list.
Nick, how many total residential accounts do we have?
We have approximately about 1,200, and that incorporates a couple different meter sizes. So I think 5/8 and 3/4 are the two types of meters that we have. So yeah, about
we currently
10%
have
on.
And 70 outstanding on residential.
We have, when we do the penalty process or the late fee process, we have on average about 150 to 175 that are on that process. And when we get to the shutoff process, that goes down to between 25 and 30 on a typical month.
Thank you. Councilmember Graves.
Got some thoughts and comments, but first of all, Nick, while we got you on here, I was going to ask, what's the average bill run like for residents?
So, pardon me. So the rates that just went into effect, the average bill or account balance that we have right now is between $55 and $60 for, this is residential accounts only, so it doesn't include larger commercial accounts. That's where the vast majority lies with it, pretty close to that amount.
Further councilmember comments, questions? All right, Councilmember Graves.
That was my only question. If we're opening up to comments, I personally do not think we should be shutting people's water off. I've actually had it happen to me, like in the last year, where we're on auto billing, and our like the you know how sometimes you'll get a new debit card, your debit card will expire. So one day you go to brush your teeth, and all of a sudden the water's turned off. It's extremely annoying. I think that, you know, water is important. You know, everyone needs water. We have to take a shower, brush our teeth, etc. Sometimes people slip up, forget to pay their bill. You go out of town, something happens, and then, you know, you might have kids. I mean, it's important. I don't think it's a game to be shutting people's water off. If we have to do shutoffs and you're looking for feedback on, you know, what the cutoff should be, if the average bill is $55 to $60, I think that the cutoff should be at least $100, so that you know, they should have to miss 2 bills. And then furthermore, if somebody misses a bill before they're shut off, I think that they should receive some type of a warning, because they might have done it by accident. And furthermore, if we do have a resident that's having financial trouble, instead of being adversarial toward our residents, we should treat people with respect. And if there's somebody that can't pay their water bill, instead of shutting their water off, I think that we should direct them to a charity, you know, to help them get caught up on their bills, instead of it's inhumane shutting people's water off. So if people forget to pay their bill, we shouldn't shut their water off. If people are having trouble, I think we should direct them to a local charity to help them out and be helpful instead of adversarial. Treat our residents well. So that's my thoughts.
I do believe we include the Northland Assistance Center number on the bills.
We do let them know, and on our website as well, we have reference to, I believe, the United Way, to look at, you know, assistance with billing. Anytime that we, you know, one of the advantages that we have of being a somewhat small organization is, you know, if someone comes in and lets us know that, hey, I forgot to pay my bill, or, you know, I didn't get it in the mail, we try and be as accommodating as possible, but, you know, we still stay within the parameters of our code. If we can be flexible, we will be. But, you know, we also recognize that we have to apply it fairly across the city, which is, again, why we're here tonight to discuss potential options to expand the parameters that we operate under.
I was going to ask one more follow-up, then I think Councilmember Roberts had his hand up. Do we notify people if there are payment problems, if they have like Councilmember Graves noted, if they have a card on file, they have something on file and it doesn't go through? Do we have a way of reaching out, letting them know?
I believe that if we get something where, and it's usually about a day or two before the bill is due, we'll get notification from the bank if there is an account that hasn't paid, or there's if the payment didn't go through. We don't necessarily know what the reason for that is. But I will double check to see if we reach out. I believe that we do, but if we don't, that is definitely something that we would look into.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry, real quick to follow up on that. We do send out notifications that if you're behind on your payment, that kind of here's the next steps. So that does go out in an automated process.
But that would be once the billing due date's passed, right?
Correct.
Not if someone tried to pay or do some automated whatever.
Correct. And on that notification, we do ask them to try to call us so that we can have a conversation with them and see if there is something that we can do, whether perhaps the card that's unfiled has expired. I've had that happen myself, or if they are having some financial difficulty, to point them toward those resources.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Graves, did you have a follow-up real quick?
Yeah, I was just going to say that when that happened to me when my card expired, I was not notified. I just was all of a sudden had no water, and I contacted the city because I was just confused. I'm like, hey, we're on auto pay. Why is my water off? And because I thought it was just they were working on a water main or something. And they're like, no, you didn't pay your bill. And the lady, at the city, she's helpful, but she didn't know either, why it didn't go through. We just kind of figured it out like, oh, the card that this was set up through had expired, got a new card in the mail. So we had to reestablish it. And then one other point I forgot to make is, we are a small organization. We're a small city. We have a limited number of employees. And I think it's a waste of time frankly, for our water department people to be driving around, turning people's water on and off. If we got 25 to 30 shutoffs per month and we got these water department people running around town, shutting people's water on and off, that's not good for the water department people. I think they're wasting their time. I think it's hurting the residents. And then frankly, if we're charging $30, for a disconnect, reconnect, and our average bill is $55 to $60, I mean, we got residents paying $30 penalties. That's like half their bill for these water department people to be running around doing work that's not constructive. It's not helping people. So let's just refocus on being positive.
Thank you. Councilmember Roberts, did you have something still? Or...
No, I think Councilmember Graves pretty much summed it all up.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Toll. Maybe not. I saw the virtual hand and it went away. Okay. Further councilmember comment. Oh, no.
Yeah, for some reason, my headphones aren't working, so I took them out. Sorry. Kim, I had a question for you. You said that there is something sent out when somebody misses. How does that go out? Does that go out via mail?
So that does go out via mail. And Nick kind of touched on some of the challenges. I'm not saying anything that anybody who doesn't live in town understand that there are some challenges with the post office. And we're going to kind of get into some of that later in the presentation about perhaps Nick, is it okay if I get into that right now? The billing layout and third-party assistance?
Sure, you can jump into that.
So one of the things that we wonder is the physical design of the city's bill, which is a postcard. Is that some of the challenges that we're facing at the post office? It's small, they're easily shredded in mail. We've had a lot of customers come into the front counter to show the remnants of that postcard to us. And again, it leaves our facility intact and straight and nice. And through the mail process, it sometimes gets mangled. So some of the things that we are looking at, and there would be a cost associated with this, is do we perhaps move toward a letter and an envelope system? The physical overall size of the bill would increase, and hopefully that would decrease the chance of it getting caught up in post office machinery. We've always thought it's a little odd that your personal information and the bill is on the outside. It's not enclosed. Those are kind of some of the pros with moving toward a more traditional utility bill. It would also allow city to have more timely communication with our residents. We could put in stuff that, is happening the coming month. It would improve some communication. Like I said, for us, it's just something that we are wondering internally about if some of the challenges that we are having with the water bills is the physical, is its physical design.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it would be better served in an envelope, closed and sent, for the reasons Kim articulated. But also, I've been on auto bill since it was developed here at the city. I would like an option not to get anything in the mail. So if people set up auto pay, we could kind of negate the cost of the amplified mailers by having people be able to opt out of a paper situation at all. So that could, the cost will go up with the mailers that are not postcards, but it could come down if a chunk of the citizens don't want anything in the mail. Or maybe via email, because I don't get anything from the city that I can recall when my bill drops. I'd like an email in my inbox, say like, okay, yeah, it's being paid via auto pay. You're good. And then physical mail out to those who want it.
All right, we'll go around. I see Councilmember Clevenger, and I think Saber is your hand up too. Okay, we'll get Clevenger and then Saber.
Okay, I'll go ahead and thank you. Couple of things. I'm on the auto pay, love the auto pay. But I get an email and a paper bill, but I always thought maybe there's an option to opt out of the paper bill. That's something maybe we should check with Nick on. But I get an email with a PDF of the bill every month. I think that was something that was started under Shirley, if I'm remembering correctly. And so, that's one thing to throw out there, but I definitely agree with Kim and Jesse about the envelope, getting rid of the postcard style and doing an envelope, which allows us more flexibility and more things that we can do, put in different things in the water bill and maybe it not getting lost as much. As far as shutoffs, I can agree with what Councilmember Graves said, probably a couple billing cycles, at least somewhere around $100. I don't know about the connect and disconnect fees and how the staff time is used on those, but I agree with around $100 shutoff if we do the shutoffs. Those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you, Councilmember Saber.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Graves and the other comments that have been made, and I think that the shutoff maybe should be after the second missed billing. Because if we're talking about 20 to 35 shutoffs per month, that's what this water department would be carrying, $1,200, $1,500 a month in arrears. And right now, it's a little draconian the way we treat the water shutoffs. And this would make it a little more human. And so far, I think we're all pretty much agreed from what it sounds like.
So if I could these are some of the reasons why we wanted to have this conversation. We at the staff level really kind of took a look at us and wanted to be able to say, hey, there's an opportunity here, but city council, you guys are tasked with changing the city code. We cannot unilaterally change city processes and go against the city code. So if you guys could give us some direction on when shutoffs, is that a dollar amount? Is that a 60-day? If we could get some clear direction, that would be wonderful so we can bring back clearly articulated language for you to formally adopt.
So far, maybe I'm just making this number up. I've heard around $100 so far in past due bills. And I'm seeing several head nods and thumbs up. So can we do shutoffs at $100 in total past due bills? Right?
Yeah, we need that option.
Or did I missay that?
The only thing about the $100 threshold is that during the summer, when folks are watering their grass, you can get especially now with the increase, that could be one billing cycle. So I don't know if we just want to make it 2 missed bills rather than $100.
So I guess how would you partial payment?
If the intent is to get through 2 billing cycles, let's just make it 2 billing cycles.
So even if you paid a little bit on one billing cycle, that wouldn't count, or what if I say that I paid $30 last month instead of my $50 bill? I guess how would you codify that?
If the second bill is unpaid, it's not a fully paid bill. If you haven't paid the first one in full and then the second one is past due, it's a shut off. That's how I would say.
We'll still call that 2
That's 2 cycles.
Paid bills. Okay, 2. Okay, got it. I don't know if I saw hands there. I'm sorry. Councilmember Toll has her virtual hand up again, and I keep missing her. And it's gone again. All right. Okay, gone again. Councilmember Roberts, you have something there?
Yeah, I think the threshold, I think 2 billion cycles makes sense. My only concern is people falling too far behind. So I think is there a way we can have like one of these triggers to where like somebody falls behind that, we said there's maybe 20 or to 30 people a month. Is there a way that we could ensure that there's not a second bill they're falling behind on, that we're getting ahead of it, that maybe they can make a payment, whether it's full payment or not, just so they're not $200 or $300, as Jesse said, and the summer bills are going to get pretty high. I'd hate to see, us giving leeway and not finding a solution before we get to, that third bill hitting, and then they're shut off and $300 behind and no way out.
That's, I think, why staff, we were thinking of a dollar amount, and what it would allow that person to do is maybe make payments toward it. Yes, they would be carrying a balance, but they could perhaps pay $20 or $30 and stay ahead of the cutoff list. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, so if the average bill is around 60, I think we could probably say 150 should account for some summer increases. I don't know. I mean, this might be something we have to adjust. We don't know what the summer bills are going to look like if they shoot up and the average bill is $90, but 150 is probably going to be in that safety range, I would guess.
So 150?
All right, here we go. We'll go 150. 150. Who wants 150? Too high? What do we got? Too low? Too high?
We also have a cold weather shutoff policy. So perhaps we should talk about that before you talk about the other shutoff, just so you can think about things globally.
There. No shutoffs during winter. There.
Nick, do you want to kind of talk about what our thoughts might be?
Bad for your power. Bad for you.
Sure, and just jumping back to that last point that Councilmember Roberts made, though, that is a concern from some of our staff, including one of our staff members who's worked in debt collections. And a lot of times what happens is someone will fall behind 2 or 3 cycles, and then trying to get caught back up can be a challenge. So that is something that when we look at options, that's something that we're thinking about as well, is how that affects the residents. But going to the cold water shutoff policy, so the state has a policy for electric and gas utilities to where if the weather is under 32 degrees, they suspend shutoffs, and then before they resume them, when the weather gets nicer, they have a number of triggers for letting account holders know that, you've got 5 days before we're going to come and shut off, and then even notifications the day before that, to pay their bill, or they'll be on the shutoff process. We've talked about it internally, and there have been a couple other cities that we've seen who have done some similar things about just suspending the shutoff process altogether during the cold weather months. That would be typically January and February, and now March even seems to be in that process some years where, the weather is cold. It may turn around for a couple days and then it goes back. Instead of, putting any strain on our public works crews that go out and do that process, we would recommend, if we do something on cold weather, that we just, suspend shutoffs for the entire month for those cold weather months, instead of, waiting for a temperature change. Again, we've seen a couple cities that do some similar things, or they may follow the state rule, which from our perspective, being in a small organization, doing all those notifications can be pretty time consuming. So if I was going to make a recommendation, I would go with just suspending for the full month.
So I'll piggyback on what, just real quick on Nick. Some of the considerations that we have from the staff perspective is when you shut off water services during those extreme cold temperatures, you could be causing damage both on the city side as well as on that private side. And if a homeowner is already struggling to make ends meet, a large costly plumbing bill is probably not something that they would be able to overcome. So this is kind of some of the reasons why we wanted to bring this option to your attention and maybe have some discussion on it.
I would agree with no shutoffs during winter. I'm going to try Councilmember Toll again. I see that hand up again.
Okay. If the headphones all together, we should be good to go. I'm wanting to go back all the way to notifying when you're late. So I heard Councilmember Clevenger say he gets an email. I don't know how you get signed up for that. I would love that. I don't have an email. I just get the postcard. Being able to opt out, go paperless would be great. I am concerned that switching to an envelope, wonderful, but that's not all the problem we have with things not making it. It's not just that it's getting mangled, at least in my experience with other mail that doesn't come sometimes. Is there another way that people could sign up for alerts? Could we sign up through the new website? Could we sign up through text messages or emails or any other options to be alerted if we miss a payment?
So we can definitely, even put out some more communications about the email notification process. And, it's always worth, whenever we set up a new account now, we let people know that that is an option. And I believe you can set it up to where you get the email bills only. I will triple check that. But whenever I go into the system and look at accounts, I see that option pop up. So, but we have to ask permission first and get permission from the account holder to do that. So we could look at a communication campaign to get that, get more awareness out about that. In terms of, and Kim may have some other ideas here too, we have talked to Encode, again, that's who we do our billing through. They have a mobile app as well. There is a fee associated with it, but most utilities have that option as well, where you can pay through an app and get your bill through that process as well.
Councilmember Smith.
I came in defense of the envelopes. I want to backtrack really quick to that. Do we know what the additional cost would be? Because that's a pretty big step up from just printing a postcard and sticking it in the mail, because it would be printing and then stuffing of envelopes and postage. Do we know at all what it would cost to put out envelopes?
So that would be something that we'd have to bring back to the city council. In my personal experience, I've gone through this process with 2 other municipalities where we used to do the printing internally, and then we partnered with a mail house or a mail expert to have that done for us outside. It's not, and this is my previous lives, there's actually some cost savings on postage because they bundle it together. So they may mail out 2 or 3 million pieces of mail. Therefore, you're getting a bulk rate, which helps offset the cost for the printing and the larger envelope. So what we were hoping to get is that even an option, or do you guys love your postcards? And Kim, staff don't touch our postcards. We love them. Or, staff, we would love for you to come back with some options for us to be able to discuss.
Options would be
a variety of options all the time.
Yeah. Give us the option. And then the second point on the cold water shutoff, or cold weather time shutoff, with gas and electric, it makes sense not to ever shut off during like serious cold, because that's life or death. With water, it's not a life or death scenario, and I think there could be some gray area. I would honestly like to see us just continue on with the annual policy, the normal policy of shutting off after a certain duration or dollar amount, whatever we come up with. And then the damage to the pipes, it would be bad to turn on water if other utilities have also shut off. So if power or gas is shut off to the property, you don't want to run water into it, because then the pipes can burst if they get too cold. But I'm a little unclear on what the damage is that we're talking about with the shut off and turning back on during the cold winter months. I'm a little unclear on what that damage would be.
It would really be in extreme temperature drops, like the one we probably will have later on this week, where you get into the negatives for a prolonged period of time. As you know, some of the houses that we have are a bit older. I've seen a lot of messaging where, you might want to turn on your water to a slow drip tonight, so that water is continuously moving and not staying in that pipe where it can freeze because of non-movement. So that's where our kind of concerns of, if you were to turn off that water, it doesn't allow for that slow drip that you might have.
Freezing.
Oh.
Tom.
Go ahead and hit that mute button there, Tom.
So again, that would be kind of just our concerns. Again, we don't typically, if it's very, very cold, if it's frigid, Our staff will take a few days and wait for the ground to warm up a little bit. Because again, when you're turning valves, as this council knows, sometimes things break.
Right. Yeah. The thing about the water in the pipes, that's actually the opposite problem. If you have water shut off to the house and a pipe, like the pipes will literally not burst because there's not pressure behind it. That the pressure and the freezing coupled with it being blocked into a closed pipe is what causes the bursting. So if the water's off, you're actually preventing the pipes from bursting more often than not. I don't know. I don't see the same argument for not shutting water off during cold weather as there is for gas and electric, but I'm open to other people's perspective on that.
Okay, I see Councilmember Palumbi and I see Councilmember Clark as well. Councilmember Palumbi, go ahead.
I had a few things. I echo what we have said about the option for paperless billing. I would consider myself to be pretty tech savvy, and I also didn't know you could sign up for just an email. So I think if we were to offer that or make that more public, I think we would probably get about 25%, if not more, of the population take advantage of that. And so if we were to stray away from the postcards and move into a closed system, I do think that those may counteract each other in terms of costs, and kind of be a net zero. I'm also in favor of suspending cutoffs. I mean, ideally, I would love to suspend them during the entire winter season, which would be, November to February. My only concern is similar to what Adam said, in regards to, I don't want people to fall back 3 months because they know that their power or their gas isn't going to be shut off, and then they're trying to catch up 3 months later, because I do see people getting into a hole if we go down that avenue. And then I would also just like to reiterate, I am in favor of a cost amount instead of, a 1 billion cycle or 2 billion cycles or whatever we decide.
Thank you, Councilmember Clark.
I was curious about, Kim, you mentioned that 2 other cities you worked with, you did the envelope system. Can you give a ballpark of did that flip the needle for you guys as far as success on people paying on time or people fulfilling bills? Did you see is there data behind it to say it was successful?
So I have automated or taken billing from internal operations to external operations. My 2 previous municipalities always had letters in envelope. In my previous life, I used to do quite a bit of mailing for municipalities. So during my conversations with a particular mail house, I had questioned how, is some of our problem because of this postcard versus envelope? And it is a pretty large mail operation here in the metro area. And they had mentioned that might be a way to overcome it being mangled, and the bills arriving in a better state to their destination. So that was one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to bring it up, to see if that was an option for us to pursue and perhaps bring back some cost estimates for overall. And again, it's been a few years since I've automated a billing cycle for municipality. It wound up only being about 3 or 4 cents more than when we did it internally. When you take the soft costs, meaning I look at everything very holistically, meaning how much time is my staff spending on this? Our staff actually prints off those bills on a copy machine here in City Hall and hand rips them. So again, is that the highest and best use of our staff time? It makes me wonder. So when you look at how long that takes to physically do internally versus externally, and you add up all of those costs, again, it's something that I would love to be able to pursue and bring forward to you for your consideration at a future meeting.
And I was also a fan of the solid versus 2 months, but just a dollar amount as well, because things could add up. And to Jesse's concern, yes, we all know if water pressure is what can affect pipes, and if you have no heat running in your home, then you're going to be in a lot bigger trouble. And I wish all the utilities could communicate to say, hey, this house has no heat, so water is not going to go well there. but yeah, so that's just a whole other side concern of how we can all get in the loop together. But I would say with the envelopes, there's an opportunity then for us to put immediate like resources listed for them to post in their homes of where they can get assistance. I know you're saying it's on the bill, but yeah, this is just another thought.
I will say I learned we print the bills here at City Hall when I printed a resolution. I went to go pick it up and it was on 3 sheets of billing paper. So that's when I first figured that one out. Who hasn't gone yet? Councilmember Saper. Or, yeah,
if we go to a 2-month arrears rather than a dollar amount, that effectively would give us a 3-month period for no water shut off, which could indeed cover the winter months. And it would make it sort of uniform across the board, just 2 months in arrears.
All right. Who all we got? Councilmember Roberts, Councilmember Graves.
I think we're all kind of in agreement here. I think we have that $150 threshold. I think we try to work with them before we get to 2 or 3 months. And we shouldn't be shutting water off. I mean, Jesse, you said it's something people can live without, but you can't cook without water. You can't. Some people drink their tap water, and that's the only tap water they have. You cannot shut water off. And to Councilmember Graves' point, we're a small city. We should be able to reach out to the people that are really falling behind, so we don't ever get to this point. I think the point of this meeting is so that we establish a better cutoff, and we're not doing it at 31 days. You know, I've had the same issue happen where I went out of town and my debit card was stolen. I didn't update it and my water got shut off. We've all had like things happen, and that wouldn't have happened had, I caught it, in time. But I think this whole meeting is that we extend that value so that we're not shutting people off for accidents or, when they can't afford it, and we work with them and we help them as a city. But surely water is a necessity of life and we shouldn't be shutting it off.
Okay, Councilmember Graves. Sorry.
Yeah, to piggyback off of Roberts there, I agree 100%. Shutting people's water off it's absurd. And then let's just think about this for a second. Like, there has to be a better way. So our staff at the water department are taking the time to turn off and on 25 to 30, houses per month that, shut offs on average. Wouldn't that time be better served contacting those homes and saying, hey, you're behind. We don't want to shut your water off. People are either going to fall into one of two categories. You got people that have money and goofed up and their card expired, or they went out of town, or they just forgot to pay their bill. And you're going to contact them and say, hey, you're late. We don't want to shut your water off. And they're going to say, oh, my bad. Here's my credit card. Go ahead and pay it, online or over the phone. And instead of that water department employee going over to their house, shutting their water off, going back to the water department, waiting for them to pay a reconnect, going back, turning it back on, what a waste of time. And so then the second category of people are people that don't have money, that are poor people. And let's face it, they need help. They don't need their freaking water shut off. That's insane. We shouldn't be like adversarial towards poor people and shutting their water off so they can't take a shower before they go to work. So we got to figure out a better way, guys. And then I like the idea of e-billing. And I don't know if this is an option, but is there a way to incentivize e-billing? Like maybe tell people, hey, instead of getting a postcard or a bill in the mail, you get $1 off per month or something, do some type of economic incentive to flip people over to, either an automated pay system or just like an email billing cycle. And then as far as notifying people prior to shut off, to avoid shut offs altogether, is there a way we can, we have a text system here in North Kansas City, Textcaster. We could email people a warning. Is there some type of automated system to where we don't have, physically water department staff contacting people, where there's just like, is there an automated system that we could subscribe to where people are contacted via email, telephone, whatever, like a robocall, and say, hey, your water bill is past due. You're at risk of shut off. Pay your bill. If you need assistance, here's who to contact, etc.
That is something that we can look at again with Encode and see what options they have. If we have an email address, we can look at if there's a way to just communicate that way. And we can look at calling as well. One thing that I'll just really briefly mention is that we do reach out, especially when we go and review our reads every month before we send out the bills. If we see something generally where someone has what looks like continuous usage or a significantly higher amount than what they've had in previous months, we also try and reach out to them. We're careful in what we say, but we do try and notify residents as much as possible when more so when they're showing like higher reads than they have in previous months, and letting them know that they may need to look and see what's going on there. But in terms of notifications to residents, we can definitely look at options there. I think that's a conversation that after this meeting we'll reconnect with Encode and see what options we have.
Thank you. I've seen Councilmember Clevenger's hand up there for a minute. Councilmember Clevenger.
Yes, couple of things. I think, the threshold that we've set, though, if it's $150, allows for the people that have maybe changed the credit card or what have you, or are out of town, still to pay their bill and not get shut off. And it allows, people that are struggling to work out arrangements. I think at some point, you would love to not be able to ever shut anybody's water off, but I think you got to have standards at some point when there's a shut off. If you're talking about the cold weather, and Jesse talked to us about the pipes and all of that, and Wes said that people rely on the water. So why aren't we? Some people may drink their tap water, or if you're in the summertime, the hottest months. Let's say you're struggling, you don't have air conditioning in your home. You're going to want to take a cold shower or drink water. So why aren't we talking about no shutoffs in the summertime either? That's just you open up a whole can of worms there. So, definitely I want to help people, and I want to make sure people are notified before they get shut off, and give them the time to get resolution. But, I just don't think you can just say can't shut off anything. So.
Okay. So I think we've landed on at least 150 threshold. Is that good with?
It is. Thank you.
So we got the 150 threshold. What do we think about, I know we briefly talked about it, but I don't think we ever came to any real conclusion. The $15 shut off and turn back on fee, which I'm going to ask Kim, which I'm going to ask about all fees. Any idea what this actually costs us to do?
So you do get mobilization of city staff. So an actual person has to go out and physically turn those levers. So, and staff does think that adjusting that dollar amount of when we cut off will hopefully disincentivize or lessen the amount of times we're having to do that. That was some of the reasons why we wanted to bring this forward and have a conversation. Is we don't like turning off water. Believe me, there's no joy that comes with that. One of the reasons why we wanted to bring this forward was so that we can adjust some of these things in the code so that we are able to be a bit more human in our responses. So again, it's one of those things like the city council, if you guys would like to adjust that, we could see what changes behaviorally happen over the next few months. And this could be more of an ongoing dialogue instead of a one-time conversation.
Kind of what I've heard so far, and then I'll get Councilmember Palumbi. I feel pretty good on the $150 threshold. We might, and you're going to have to come back to us anyways. So it might give people a couple weeks to go back and think a little bit more on the cold weather policy. I think you have enough direction to look at additional payment options, and same with additional billing layout and third-party assistance, because you're going to have to go seek all that information and bring that back to us.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so we don't have to make the cold weather shut off policy decision tonight. That can be something everyone stews on between now and when we have that next meeting as well. Councilmember Smith.
Was Palumbi gonna?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Palumbi. That's right.
Rude.
He was still.
I know he draws attention to himself.
For that Patriot shirt.
I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but I'm kind of in favor of waiving the fee for the first offense, just because I've had it happen to me, and I think if this happens to you because you honestly didn't pay attention because you've been on auto pay for so long that, you know, we should be a little bit more forgiving. But if this obviously is a repeat problem, then obviously I would agree with a fee. But if this is your first offense and your only offense, I do kind of favor waiving the fee to turn things back on.
I guess I'd have to have a better understanding of exactly what we think it costs to have to go out and do it, because we are waiving fees and ultimately another customer's paying it. Council members. No, I'm sorry. Did you have more? Councilmember Colby. Okay, now Councilmember Smith. They want to get in trouble.
Yeah. So if we're setting the $150 threshold and we're reaching out over and over and over again during the time that the balance is building up, there really shouldn't be any accidental, I forgot my card expired situation. So if that's the case and we have to go turn it off, you charge the fee. You charge the fee to shut it off. You charge the fee to turn it back on, because at that point it's not an accident. It's people have had the opportunity to, reach out to Northland Assistance. They've had the opportunity to, correct a expired card. So I think we keep charging the fee and just enforce the 150 threshold. I'd like to see that just go year round and see how it goes.
Okay. Saper, Councilmember Toll.
Yeah, I think the 150, I've come around to the $150 cutoff point, and that in effect gives a 3-month threshold, and that could happen at any time of the year. And in terms of the cutoff fee, I think we need to get some feedback on just what it costs to actually do a shut off and turn on. Maybe it's $5, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 20. We need to get some more information on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Toll.
I think going back to what we've mentioned before and Councilman Graves saying that having some sort of an automated alert that you've missed your payment, not personal phone calls from people, but if there's a way for us to sign up for an automatic alert. I've been on auto pay for, over a decade. So I would have no clue if something went wrong. But if I got an alert, I think you could wipe out a lot of these missed bills with alerts. And I think relying on paper mail, whether it's an envelope or a postcard in this area, has not been reliable for the entire time I've lived here. So, I don't know what that costs, having some sort of an automated system alert you, but having a fee for turning off, shutting off, and turning it back on could help offset those costs. And like Jesse said, hopefully we're sending out enough alerts that we're able to avoid some of these shutoffs.
Perfect. Thank you. With that, Kim, do you have what you need? I think I kind of summarized a little bit earlier. $150 threshold. You're going to bring us back payment options, which will include alerts for missed or failed payments for whatever reason, and then our billing layout as well.
Absolutely. Nick, did you get everything that you needed?
Yes, I believe so. This provides us some direction, and we will go back and explore how we can get some of these implemented, or at least present the cost to you for getting them implemented.
Perfect. And I'd encourage council to stew a little bit more on cold weather policy and some of our outstanding issues as well between now.
Hey, Nick, before we go, can you tell everyone if we want to sign up for the emails now, how would we do that?
I will have to double check. So you can obviously call the city at 274-6000. That will get you, our billing clerks are also our customer service. So they're going to be the ones that answer that, and we'll be able to set you up on that. And I will send out an email address as well. I don't want to say it wrong right now, but I believe it's utilitybilling@nkc.org, but I want to make sure that I give you the correct email address that you can send that as well.
And certainly, so as you're looking at various options within code, I mean, is that something you could look at so people could potentially self-sign up or create accounts online as well?
That is something that we'll explore.
Good question.
Perfect. Thank you. Further council member comments? Seeing none, we will adjourn until 7 o'clock for the regular meeting. All right, see you then.